If you remember, a few weeks ago, we were joined by John Mahoney, the top guy at NeuronNet, and we were talking to him about the GNURON and this product that they have announced. And John on the show said that he was going to let Vance have a sort of a demo box, a beta version to play with. And you have it there. We've been testing it. And so, Mr. Willis, the floor is yours. Over to you.
So yeah, before we get started here a little bit, so I want to say that I've been working with John. We mentioned a few weeks ago that we've known about this solution for some time, and we're honored to be able to be testing it. And this unit is available on the market now, and we wanted to kind of bring it forward and let everyone see what the box is capable of doing. But I would like to bring John on, and so let's see if we can hear John when I press a button here, and see if John, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. How's everything?
All right, it's going well. So we are now bringing you in, John, through the GNURON box of LiveToAir plugged into Skype. So that actually you're full screen now, and we're sending you out to the stream. So, this is doesn't look super sophisticated until we say, well, maybe we have another guest. So here is Mr. Robin Cutshaw. So Robin, thanks for joining in to the test. Can you hear us okay?
Hello, and welcome from Atlanta, Georgia, just not far from you. And I wanted to give a big thumbs up to Martin and vMix, which I'm using right now, and I've been using one of the competitive products, and it was just eating every bit of CPU I had on a Mac, and I loaded his software on this new box, and it's using currently 4% of the CPU, so a big thumbs up to vMix, and it's great that he's supporting the show and NAB this year.
All right, Robin. Well, that's great. So you see that right now these different video images have been switched. I'm doing that switching here in the North Carolina studio, sending it over to Peter and Mark, and we're going to get some input from Mark and Peter, I'm sure, as well as John will be answering some questions as we go through this. So I want to just kind of talk briefly. I know we went over some information, and now that we have hands-on with the unit, we can answer even more questions. Don't want to necessarily give a whole lot of the stuff away, but what I do want to say is this is a completely standalone unit that is running proprietary software that is plugged into Skype, and gives you the ability to house 4 independent callers, both in a control room setting and also in a LiveToAir setting. Okay, and that gives you the ability to have these 4 callers and do very creative things with them, just like you would with 4 Skype machines, except you have even more flexibility, and it's all in one box. Now, this box is a rack mount box. It's similar to size to the larger TriCaster 800 series and 8000 series as far as rack mounts go. It's got some magic inside, some capture cards, input, output, etc. But the bottom line is that it is a standalone unit that is dedicated 100% for audio and video communications using Skype and using John's. Now, John, you want to just kind of touch on a little bit more about what I just said, and see if you can bring us up to speed. I'm gonna show the interface in just a second, and maybe even the back of the box, and we can talk a little bit about some stuff. But bring us into a full introduction of the box, and then we'll get into it in some depth.
Okay. What we were looking to do was to create a foundation for producers to be able to integrate multiple remote guests into their video productions. What we saw a lot of people were using was Skype as sort of the go-to service for bringing these remote guests in. And we want to find a way to actually integrate Skype with a framework around it that was really well suited for live production. So the LiveToAir plugged into Skype is really all about bringing Skype to an operator in a control room in a way that they could manage up to 4 Skype connected guests and allow those guests not only to interact with the studio, but also to interact with each other in a way that wouldn't require external mixes with multiple submixes or other types of gymnastics that tend to get done to make those types of audio and video routings happen. We also wanted to provide a way, when we saw how a lot of people were using Skype in productions, was to allow multiple guests to come on in those multi-box types of displays that are very common in broadcast television. And so beyond just providing individual feeds for each one of the guests that are connected via Skype, we also provided a single combined feed of all the guests that could easily be partitioned into different types of layouts on screen without tying up multiple SDI inputs that tend to be scarce on boxes in some environments. We also found that allowed people in the TriCaster Pro line who didn't have an 8000 to have more than just 2 live video streams packaged on air. So this combined feed now allows you to have on an 800 or 400 series Pro line up to 5 live video streams all interacting, which we felt gave producers a lot of creative control over the way they wanted to present not just the individual guest and the discussion that was going on, but also sort of the community as debates and interactivity were to go on. It allowed them more creativity in how they could display that on air.
All right, so that's perfect. And there again, we're just switching between a few video settings right now, a few video inputs, and everybody's like, what's the big deal about all of that until we actually show what you just explained. So what I think we'll do is we'll bring forward the interface first, and then we'll go a little bit into some of the detail stuff. So hopefully, Mark, let me know if this comes across and everyone can see this as I talk about it. Hopefully, I'm going to be moving the cursor and describing things. I don't know if you can you see the cursor well?
Yeah, we can hear. We can read the text. I mean, it's great here in the studio. So.
Okay, great. Okay, so this is the interface. This is GNURON.exe running on the LiveToAir plugged into Skype box that is proprietary. Now, first thing I want to talk about is I'll go in each one of these elements of these windows. Up in the top left, and John, if I get something wrong, please jump in, because I have had this for about a week, and I've got a lot of time with it, but not nearly as much as you have in years. So up in the top left, we have a guest preview that is directly relationed to whichever channel bank I'm calling these is highlighted. So we see that there is a color bar around guest number 2, which is showing me a very small thumbnail preview of John. It shows me a large preview in the top left-hand corner saying this is who's on channel 2, John. Okay, and the second window is the inputs coming from each Skype caller. Now, if we look here in the very first call bank channel lineup here, we see that Robin's little thumbnail is here. Robin is up as caller number 1. John is caller number 2. That's coming into the box. Caller number 3 would be if we had one here, and caller number 4 would be at this point. So this is a 2-studio multi-view 4 input into the box. That's what's coming in from each caller. So as we call Robin, he gets put up here. As we call caller 2 and John, here, 3, there, 4 there. Okay, so that goes pretty simple. Now, in the From Studio setting, over here on the far right, this is what each one of these guys are seeing as return video. Now, one of the big challenges in Skype is being able to get high definition or very good frame rate and very good widescreen video back to callers in a lot of different instances. So right now, this is what I'm sending out as program from the TriCaster. I'm also sending this into an input on the LiveToAir plugged into Skype box. So that's what they're seeing.
Yeah,
so
Vance, just so people don't get confused. I mean, you happen to be sending the interface there. So normally you'd send a picture of whoever was talking to the to the Skype guest, so it'd be a studio shot. But for this demo, you're
Well, that's
actually
right.
you're
So with
sending
this,
them back, yeah.
In this situation, right, so as I switch on my end, the beauty of this is I switch on my end. Right now I'm talking, so I've got focus. Then the Skype callers on the, if you could see the interface now, which I'm seeing in preview, my picture is now being sent back to both John and Robin. So they're seeing
it's up
essentially
in the top right, yeah.
what, it's in the top right now where the interface was. That's exactly right. So now they're seeing me talk. So if I grab a widget and I'm talking about it, they see the widget, it's live, and they know that I'm talking about this Canon remote. So that's all good. But you're exactly right. So when I switch back to the interface, bam, you could see me just for a split second, and then it does the back to the studio. So now they're seeing the screen. So now as I talk about it, if I get something wrong, John can jump in and say, no, Vance, that's not correct, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so some interesting things about this is that on the left-hand side, after we go across the top, on the left-hand side we have an address book that gives you the ability to put either the guest name in and or the Skype name, the true name, in the bottom, and you can use this just like the normal Skype find window, the search window with a little magnifying glass in Skype. So it'll find anyone that you're looking for. Now, let's just say that I wanted to bring on, I don't know, we're just going to click on the third one. I'm not going to call it, but I just want to show you how this works. Now, I clicked on the third bank. Okay, so that says, okay, now I don't have a preview, I have a test pattern, but let's just click on just one on the list. Now we notice as soon as I clicked on it one time, it threw it over into the third channel bank, okay, puts a thumbnail up, and I have the ability to call that guest. Now these two are on air on these two video and audio channel banks, but this one is not. I have the ability to actually grab a control room headset in this situation like this and put this on and make a call to the third and the fourth caller without them being on air. Now you see that third and fourth are not on air down at the bottom. So I can talk to them, say, okay, caller number 3, caller number 4, we're going to take you on air and we're going to be talking about blah, 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 blah. Okay, so that's how you bring a guest online. Now to clear that one, you just press the drop and it'll clear it out, and you can go and grab someone else and throw it into that channel bank and do the same thing on 3 and 4. So that's the way that works. Now, interestingly enough, as we go across these channel banks, at the very bottom right, you see that I'm still down here on my camera A coming in, okay? Now, typically, this is a USB web camera, such as, well, any USB web camera works fine, but C910, we've tried the Logitech C910 and 920. But in this situation, since everyone knows I'm kind of a hacker when it comes to getting things, done, we're actually using a Majorel video capture card, USB 3, and the GNURON box sees this input just like it does the C910. So now this is my camera A shot that you see me in this bottom right-hand side, and this is what the callers see when I am in the control room mode, which is at the far right over here. So if I call caller 3 and caller 4 and I don't have them on air, then the control room and this picture is what they see. As soon as I press go live or on air button down here in the bottom, then they start seeing what is in the studio. So they see the real-time switched video. So you have two different modes. Control room, let's call this the Peter control room side, and that's the headset talking to the guest. And then we have a live, which is where we are now. But you do see me in the camera, a camera shot like you normally see me anyway, and then you guys are obviously seeing the entire screen. Okay, so now I'm going to click back on John one time, bring John back up, and we have a couple of controls here. So we talked about the address book. Now we have some video controls on this side. Now, as long as John is highlighted on this window, I can do things like adjust the gamma on John. So we can see John's picture change and back to about normal. And then we can also adjust the contrast, and we can see that change live at the same time. Now, obviously, if I do something all funky and I make him all dark, and then I go to John and I take him live, bam, he's dark. So that's real time live, and it just works perfectly. Okay, so let's just take this back to the center. We'll bring this back to the proper contrast ratio. And let's just say John is really bad with headshot and zooming himself or placing himself in place. So we want to get a little headroom as possible. And bam, now we've got just a little bit of headroom. We can see the spike. And there we go. We take it live, and John has no excess headroom, or we don't see anything extra in the room. So these are real live in-time video controls that control each one of these channel banks as you highlight them. And we can do the same thing with Robin. We click on Robin one time. We can zoom in on Robin if we need to. We can zoom back out on Robin. We can get back to normal. And then when we take Robin live, there is Robin, and he's there as normal. Now, the other thing on each one of these channel banks that we have highlighted, we have the ability to have the audio adjusted from my studio going to Robin, the level for that, and the level from Robin coming back to me. So if Robin would talk, Robin, can you say something?
Hello again, and welcome from Atlanta, Georgia.
Okay, so Robin's audio on the left-hand side comes up, so we know that we're getting audio from Robin, and I can adjust that up or down, or my audio to and from Robin. Now, the third slider on each one of these channel banks is a delay. So you notice Robin's delay is up just slightly to about 300 milliseconds. When we first connected Robin, it was absolutely perfect. And then about, I don't know what, Robin, maybe 8 minutes in or so, we got some lip sync issues. So we just ease that slider right up just a little bit, and boom, there you go. Now we're just dead on the money.
More now. Yeah.
Okay, so we could even do a bit more if necessary, Mark. Now I'm trying to do this from way across the room here, so I don't want to get too much because it's not very. It actually happens in real time.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
But,
yeah.
but the slider and
yeah, we understand. Yeah. Good.
So anyway, you got it. Okay, so there you go. So each channel bank adjusts this and all of these in real time. So that's pretty neat. I mean, all of that. This is the control interface, and this is what the control room and/or in the situation where I am, this is what I'm doing. I'm using a KVM, and I'm running into the box, and I'm doing everything live right here using the same keyboard that I run the TriCaster and the Video Hub and everything else on. So it's really cool stuff. But that's a big part of it. That's the behind the scenes of this. But how about once you get it into, say, your vMix or Wirecast or your TriCaster or whatever switching software you have, what cool things can you do with it at that point? Now, obviously, this is the raw side. You're seeing it coming in, so we know we have 2 videos in, and I'm sending back to them, and I've got a control room. But how about if I wanted to do something like have the host up in the top and have 2 callers, in the bottom, and the other 2 guests, 3 and 4 on the other side, and have a brand logo in the center, and we could carry on a conversation. So if I ask John, how's the weather where you are today?
A little colder than I like, but getting warmer.
Right. So there you go. So there you go. And same thing with Robin. As I talk to Robin interacts, and we have a full conversation between us. So Robin, have you flown your quad UAV today?
Not today. It's a balmy 47 degrees Fahrenheit here with a little rain.
Right. So yeah, it's kind of chilly for us too. So then we can do things like, the host could have, a window down with one of the callers, or another caller. So there's John, and we could put guest 3 down in the bottom, guest 4 down in the bottom, or if you want to be kind of just type A personality guest where you're always the big guy and you get your guests down in the bottom and they all stay small, then you could even have it like this. So what John was alluding to a little bit ago was that you get the ability to do something like your studio input, which is camera A for me, guest 1, guest 2, guest 3, guest 4. We have 5 video inputs here. And we're able to do this in virtual sets. And thank you to John for sending us this virtual set, John. This is great. So you kind of get an idea of what it looks like.
So Vance, again, for clarification, these are virtual sets on the TriCaster. So all these multi-boxes that you're showing are taking that quad screen, I think that John was saying, and then splitting it up within the virtual set on the TriCaster.
You got it, exactly. So here is a raw quad screen input coming into the video hub and going into the TriCaster. So this is what is coming out of John's box into the video hub, and then at that point, yes, the virtual set is slicing and dicing these up and giving you something like this. Host and camera A, and then those quad boxes that you see right here are split up into quadrants to where you have, like I say, the branding, if you'd like, of Studio Tech and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But, you know, the other cool thing is that if you don't want that, you can just bring in each individual video input. So I can bring in Robin or John, and as each one of them speak, then I can focus on them directly just using the box's video. You know, and then of course go back to me in full screen, and then, you know, back to John, back to Robin, et cetera, et cetera.
All right. So
and then also
a question,
you could go directly.
Question from me. Now, we've got 4 or 5 questions in the chat room, which in a minute we'll ask John about. But so how is the video coming into the TriCaster? You've obviously, so you must have multiple inputs. So it comes out as what, multiple SDI?
That is correct. Okay, so without boring, I don't want to bore everyone, but I know how some of our viewers are, and I'm not going to do any copyright infringement here. But here is kind of a real quick, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this at all. But this is the back of the box. So Mark, coming into this number 8 port right here is my, John, help me if I get this wrong. My studio feed is coming into number 8. So this is my input into the box. And the quad output is coming out of this one, number 9, and going out. So these are kind of main in, main out. And then each one of these other ones, 1, 2, 3, 4, are the outs from the box going into, say, your video switcher, your vMix, your Wirecast, your TriCaster, or whatever. And that's kind of the way that it does. So the slicing and dicing can happen outside of the box, or the nice thing is that the box does give you the ability to bring those out individually. So, Mark?
All right, that's great. And you've just froze ever so slightly, but you're back with us now, I think.
Okay. All right. So are we good? Okay.
Yeah, we're good.
So anyway, that's kind of that's a look at the back of the box. So in this scenario, you know, I'm actually bringing the control screen in from port number 7, which is the DVI out. So from this port right here, I'm grabbing this and bringing it into the video hub. So that's what you're seeing right here. So that's kind of how it all the magic works as far as getting into the TriCaster. But I just think it's so neat to be able to grab these and be able to manipulate them as needed after the fact, or even as just raw. If I didn't have, say, the TriCaster with virtual sets, then I really could just switch straight to John and John, what have I missed? So talk to me about what I've missed so far.
I think the most important thing from a production point of view is that we try to create an interface that isn't very cluttered, even though there are multiple connections and interactions with multiple guests. So part of the design was not just trying to get all the technical elements right, which are obviously, an important component to bringing Skype on air, but it was also, when we focused on it, it was how can we create something that if you were in an operational mode where you could just look at a single screen and not be overwhelmed, but still feel that you're in control of all the different elements that you need to worry about during a live production. So that was one of the things that in designing the UI, we really had a lot of focus on that. I mean, the other elements is that, we think the TriCaster is a phenomenal pairing with LiveToAir, but the box itself is not built around a TriCaster specific environment, because we know there are a lot of people in the webcast space that have alternate software only solutions, as well as there are others in the higher end broadcast area that. So we wanted to make something that, could work generally, but that elements that if you use the TriCaster, some things could be very simple for you to work with. And so, for instance, one of the things that we do have available is an AirSend feed. So you could actually send out any one of the feeds over the network without having to tie up an HD-SDI, which again, for some folks, that's a very important capability. They're port constrained on the back of their boxes, and they really need to, optimize the use of every single input they have. So this gives, another alternative.
Right. So we're being asked in the chat video.
Okay, we are just doing. Our link is suffering. This is not the box that Vance is demoing, but it is the same the link that we have between the studios that is playing up. But I can see Robin blinking away, so I assume that it is back up and running. So we got John's answer there, Vance.
Okay, good. So yeah, I can't tell when it's going down. I'm sorry about that, Mark. But anyway, one of the questions was, can all of these individual video signals come in, or are they coming out individually? And the answer is obviously yes, because as John speaks, that's an individual video out. And I'm bringing that in as a separate input right now into the TriCaster, as is Robin's. So each one of those are independent. They carry SDI audio if you would like, and they are switchable. So if I had got independent 1 through 4 guests that that you can do with whatever you would like, as well as putting them all together. Or like I said, you could bring them into virtual set, and you could have we could go to John with a virtual set, or we could go to all of us. And so it's individual videos from each one. So Mark, you got any other questions that you can try to stump? You can't stump John, but I'm sure you can stump me.
No, we do have. There are 4 questions that I picked out of the chat room. So the first one is from Christian. So John, Christian asks, so if it plugs in with Skype, if Skype for some reason decides to change the API, basically, does that mean you've got a load of junk left, or is that going to be avoided?
Well, first off, I can't speak for Skype's future plans. So, but what we've been looking at is there are multiple alternate ways to do implementation on this. First, there are alternate providers from Skype, but also Microsoft provides something called Link, which is a platform that does their that on a corporate level you can develop communications applications around, both audio and video, and that is Skype compatible. And so probably within the next couple of months, Microsoft will be releasing that. So as speaking for the business, we are always looking at what sort of alternatives, but also what sort of enhancements we can make in terms of selection of web conferencing solutions that we would be compatible with. But as of right, is committed to keeping the open API, and that we are very much involved with and supporting that in this current release. But there are multiple alternatives for everybody from Uvu to a Microsoft based business solution that could actually integrate Skype guests as well. So and we've also talked about the potential to do independent solutions, things that we could develop ourselves that might be more specifically targeted to broadcast environments. Right. So
yeah,
that's probably as complete an answer as I can give.
So I know, John, you've talked very much about it being a platform. I mean, yes, it's plugged into Skype or whatever, but you have, when you were on before, you very much talked about it as being a platform for applications and change, and not just a one-trick pony, I guess.
That's correct. I mean, every time you think of a business, you're thinking of it in terms of sort of the big arc of what you'd like to accomplish. So in releasing the product as both the hardware platform with GNURON as well as LiveToAir plugged into Skype, we saw these as being a framework in hardware that's optimized to do video, audio, routing, switching, transformations. Then with LiveToAir being the first personality that we're giving that hardware to give it functionality that could be applied in a production environment. But we definitely see their pipeline of things we'd like to be able to add to this over time. And really a lot of that's going to, where we prioritize is going to come from the things that the market thinks are most valuable to it.
All right, great. Another question we have then is from Joe. I'd like to see it do network outputs into TriCaster. Any plans you can talk about for integrating into TriCaster? I mean, you've said that TriCaster is just one of many, obviously, for your market.
Yeah. Correct. I mean, for integration into TriCaster, we've already implemented an AirSend interface, so we can actually route video out of the box over the network. So that's something that's in place and will be part of the shipping version of the product. And we're also talking with NewTek about some of their capabilities for routing video out of the TriCaster back into the platform over the network as well. So there may be some interesting ways we could create network-only connections for certain people that would really not like to be involved in the HD-SDI piece at all. So that's, that return video is something that we're looking at as well and seeing, where along the product roadmap we could add that in. But a lot of interesting ways to integrate with TriCaster specifically without involving any wires outside of the network.
All right, so a question here from Ale in Norway. Does anybody know how much bandwidth is required for having Skype guests in a show? And I'll add on to that. I mean, what sort of frame rates would you expect from the box as well when you have four guests?
Okay, we've been looking at a couple of things. First is the bandwidth per user. Our estimate right now is that it's about 1 to 1.5 megabits are required for each user channel that should be available. The other thing that I think people have to consider is that it's not just the bandwidth that a provider is necessarily saying you have access to, especially if you're working in the cable modem world where there is ultimately a shared backbone. So part of calculating that is understanding how much capacity you have in your local area and how much you're guaranteed for delivery. So when people set this up, if you're doing a show that looks has great frame rates and resolutions coming into the afternoon, but when you get to the evening when there's a lot of Netflix activity and other things going on, that your local bandwidth is somehow deprecated by that. So it's an important distinction, but on the product itself, on the interface, it does show you for each connection both the resolution and the framework that connection is coming in on. And we found that if you have that 1 to 1.5 megabit bandwidth available for each individual guest, that you should be able to run pretty comfortably at an HD resolution with approximately 20 frames per second in coming off of Skype.
And let me bring that kind of to the light, Mark. That's one of the things I did forget to show that is very, very important on the interface. So bring the interface back up, and right here under the thumbnail of each call-in guest, you see that don't know if you can make it out, 1280 by 720, 9.7 frames per second, 1920 by 1080 at, it's jumping around 10 frames a second. So this is what John was just referring to. So it's really nice, a quick reference to be able to look up and see exactly how you're connecting. So if the connection between John and the studio is going down, you can actually see, and if it gets below, say 5, then you're going somewhat robotic. You're kind of getting the little bit of glitches maybe in the audio and the video. So that is one thing that I have found I can't believe I forgot to point that out, but that I find myself looking at, because a lot of times, as we know, we've talked about Skype a number of times, that when you make that first initial call, when you hit the call button, Skype wants to communicate with the guest and kind of auto-negotiate the bandwidth connection between and get things sorted out, if you will, before it ramps up the total highest resolution. So we'll see sometimes this connects at a 640 by 360 at 17, 18, 20 frames per second, and then it'll auto negotiate, and all of a sudden, bam, you've got 720 and then 1080, and the frame rate drops a little bit, and then everything kind of evens out. But this is a very, very important part of the interface to be able to see this, Mark. So I apologize to John for not bringing that up, but hopefully that answers one of the questions as well. So what else did you have, Mark, on the questions for John or the interface?
Okay, so the next one, another one from Joe saying, how does it work when you're calling? So how does that directory function work? Do you have to have somebody as a contact already? So do you have to send them a request and get accepted, etc., or can you do it without?
On the interface, when Vance pointed it out, he showed the directory which was sitting on the left-hand side of the screen. One of the things that you see right above that is an input bar, which allows you to enter the name of a person or what you know of their Skype ID and do a find, and that would let you look that person up. You could take any person that you've looked up in that area and then select a channel to assign them to, click on the person, and bring that person in without having them in your address book. The one thing which I think is important to point out is the person that you would want to bring in this way would need to be accepting calls from anyone, not just people in their contact list. But if that's the case, you don't have to have them. You don't have to pre-negotiate to get them in your address book. You can do something on the fly if somebody's asking you to, connect with an individual in the middle of a production.
All right, and then a couple of questions just come in. So this one is, I think we've covered this. Does it work with Wirecast or VidBlast or TriCast? I think you've answered that. Basically, it'll work with anything that will take the SDI feed. So it can work with all of those.
That's correct.
Yeah.
So and anything that would work with the standard HD-SDI feed, or even just an SDI feed, if you want to run it as SD, that compatibility is pretty standardized.
Okay. All
right. So one more thing I'm going to show here just real quickly. I don't know if you can see in the bottom left of the screen, we have a four LEDs down in the bottom. I click on that and it says, okay, Skype 1 is busy, and that happens to be this account and this password. Skype 2 is also busy. As you notice, the two lights, the radio buttons are lit, and it's busy, and that happens to be this account, Studio Tech USA 2. But 3 and 4 are both ready to go. So we see a ready in Skype 3. We have that's ready to pick up the next call, and then 4 is also ready, and there is the number 4 Studio Tech USA 4, and you can log out and change that and log into other test accounts or whatever. But that's a quick way of just checking down in this bottom left corner to see exactly what your status is. Obviously, you see you have 2 connected guests. They're both on air. We're utilizing 2 of the 4 Skype, and we have 2 that are available. So I missed that on the interface as well, but that's just another really handy thing that that shows you kind of which Skype account is busy and which ones are available. So John, anything else I've missed on the interface? You think of anything else?
The only thing that I would add, I mean, you've covered most of it in great detail, but the one thing is that since Skype can be fragile based on the bandwidth available between folks, one of the things that we made sure we did is that if the Skype connection for some reason drops and there's a break on air, we preserve the last frame on air to give whoever is switching the opportunity to sort of gracefully exit away, so we're not just showing a black screen or color bars or a Skype redial or anything going on like that. So this allows you, not just from a production side, to gracefully transition to something else. The contact information is still associated with that channel. So with a single click on the call button, you can actually reestablish that connection and bring them back on air, hopefully without any issues, from the front end, what your audience would be seeing as the production is going live. So we wanted to give you the ability to, both with that, with things like the lip sync, the audio delay to make sure you have lip sync, to sort of work with the medium and understand that, there are certain areas that may need compensation at some points, and that, bake that into the way that this could operate in a live environment.
Let me just talk about that just for a second, because that's a very important point. So if we dropped Robin right now, if I said go off air and I just dropped him completely, this stunning image of Robin would stay in the quad. So if I needed to say, well, Robin had to leave fast, but Robin's opinion is, then I could still have this. He just wouldn't be blinking like he is now. He would just be there as a static image. Now that's a very important thing, I believe, that having the ability to have that static and preserve, John, is also a very valid point to keep that into each one of these. Now, we're making some suggestions to John about these color bars and being able to brand them for your own brand once you buy the box and that type stuff. Guys, this is still a brand new release version of the software, and as you see, everything's working perfectly. So that's something that may be coming down the line, to be able to change these and brand it for yourself. Because, if we only had two guests and we brought these two guests up, your eyes may be pulled to all these bright color bars instead of the focus on both Robin and John, and they may be talking about some topic that we would like to insert the topic in. Now, we're getting questions, can you do lower thirds on this box? Can you do, blah, 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 blah. This is not a video switcher. This is an input device that marries 4 Skype accounts plugged into Skype and gives you the in and out ability for the guest to bring these live to air to some other production software that that solves the solution for bringing multiple guests in. So that's kind of what it is. It does a lot of stuff, but lower thirds and video switching and all that good stuff is not necessarily what its claim to fame is. So just wanted to kind of point that out to everyone. So Mark, how are we on or the interface or anything else from the chat room? We're getting close to our hour. We've made it longer than the world record 4 minutes that we had last week, so that's good. Maybe we're going to make an hour and 4 minutes this week. So, what do we have? Any other questions at all?
No, I think we quite a few have been answered in the chat room, and people saying that somebody's going to say he's going to tell his boss about it. So, so it's good. Perhaps we could just round up by just going over the pricing. There were some questions on pricing, because I think at the moment, John, it is there's a sort of special introductory offer, or is that expired?
To the end of this month, the price is set at $59.95, and that's what we're calling sort of our early adopter price for everybody who's worked through earlier versions of the software and given us a lot of great feedback. Starting April 1st, the price goes to $69.95. And that's US dollars.
Okay, and what about availability? I have to ask this, being in the UK, what about availability out of the US? Are you US only at the moment? Are you looking at distribution, or will you ship anywhere?
Well, right now we're US only, and the biggest issue for us is when we when we ship a unit, we want to make sure that it is properly supported. So, for us, that means there's probably a local dealer, somebody that's very familiar with the environment that one of our potential clients would be placing this box in, and could do that first level support with a much more intimate knowledge of the types of uses and environment that it's going to be deployed in. We don't want to ship a box, just remotely and then not be able to provide the type of support someone, should expect from, a product that basically fits into, a key piece of their production workflow. So we want to be sure those issues are sorted out. Because like I said, the UI is an important element, not just the technology. Well, the support and everything that goes around that probably overrides all those things in terms of making sure that at the end the clients are happy. So that's the biggest driver for us. That's governing how quickly we roll out into areas where we are not comfortable yet that we have all the support infrastructure in place to make sure people would be covered well.
Okay, are you, so add on to that question, are you actually looking for people? So if there are specialist dealers around the world, and quite a few of them watch this show. So are you looking for people to get in contact with you if they're interested in perhaps, in being your outlet in France or Europe or wherever?
We're definitely looking to talk to people. More than anything, we want to be sure that we understand all the elements that would go into shipping into different countries. There are different types of regulations with products that are shipped and are going to be installed in commercial environments. So there are things that we would need to understand that we're covering as well. So anybody who has an interest globally, we're definitely interested in connecting and talking with you to see what would make the most sense for moving into the various regions globally.
John, there seems to be some misconceptions that some people asking what software it is. Of course, this isn't a software product. This is a hardware product which happens to use Windows as the driving engine. But you buy a product with software embedded. It's not a software product.
Correct. This is not a software product. It's hardware and software. So the prices that I was talking about is for the full product solution, the hardware base, mouse, keyboard, and all the software on top that is part of, powering LiveToAir on top of the GNURON platform. So that comes as a bundle turnkey solution.
Yeah.
And then it's just the things you'd need for monitor, webcam, headset, and whatever wiring you'd need inside your environment. Those things, would be things that you'd have to add to the mix to complete the solution.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, yeah, thanks for that clarification.
Okay.
And I think people, some people made the comment that it looks a little expensive. But as somebody who has, and Vance can say, I'm sure we'll back this up, as somebody who has tried multiple times to get, an effective multiple channel, 3 or 4 systems working efficiently with Skype, you add up the cost of each of those PCs or those Macs. And the price doesn't look as bad when you think of it as in that way. You could end up. I mean, Vance and I have probably spent more money than the price of your box trying to get it working. So it's great that you've come up with such an innovative solution, and we look forward to seeing you at NAB and talking face to face. We met. John very kindly bought Vance and I a drink at, I think it was midnight, in some bar in the LVH in Las Vegas, because it was the only slot that we had where we were both free to we were all free to meet, and so we look forward to seeing you again, John. So thank you very much for joining us today.
Oh, thank you for having me. I really appreciate the chance to talk about this.
That's great. So Vance, thank you for the demo. You've done a good job as always, and we did have a few glitches. But I have a theory about what is causing the problem, and we can talk about that in post show. A light bulb came on, I don't know whether anybody saw it during the show, but that was great. And I've had the pleasure of we had 4 callers on Sunday. There were 4 of us on on the box for an hour and a half, and it was great. So I've had the pleasure of seeing that before, but it's still interesting having you talk through it. So thank you for doing that.
Certainly, and this was obviously what was planned for last week, and then all the wheels fell off the cart. So thanks to everyone for coming back and checking it out, because we really have been excited about the concept of the box to begin with, but number two, actually seeing it work live and being able to have about a week of demo time with it playing around and kind of pushing it to the limits, like you said, 4 callers, all of them working live. And so what we'll do, I think, as we exit here, Mark, is I'm just going to bring the interface back up. And now, Robin, you sat there just looking great the whole time. I just didn't know if you had any other comments before I drop you, because I'm getting ready to end the show. But you are still there. You're moving. You're blinking, and I'm assuming that you can talk as well.
Yes, I'm still here.
So did you have any questions? Did I miss anything, or did I spur anything? Any questions for you? I mean, obviously thank you for joining in. Robin has been a big trooper, helping me, sometimes at some weird hours and different times, log in and check different things and kind of, try to make the box do funny things. And, we're reporting back anything to John that we find. But did I miss anything, Robin, that we found in the last week?
I'm just wondering what the Friends of Studio Tech price is going to be for this product.
I think you need to have a personal conversation with John at NAB at midnight with a drink. I think that's going to be the...
I'll switch straight to John on that one. I don't want to get involved with that.
I think it's a personal conversation over a beer.
That's always the best way to have that type of conversation.
All right. So anyway, okay, Robin. Well, thank you for joining. I'm going to bring you off the air as we're doing this live, so everyone can see. So I'm going to click on this button right under Robin's name, and Robin, we will see you and talk to you soon. So I'm going to click on this in 3, 2, 1. All right. Now, Robin is no longer with us, but if you'll notice, and let's see if I go back to Robin. He is now not blinking, so we can scratch his nose, and we can we can kind of make funny gestures or something at him. But Robin is just sitting there very stoic. So that we've now dropped him. Now the interesting thing is that the control room, we actually still have him. So if I grab my trusty, of course we'll just go back to me for just a second. Grab my headset here and put these on. Now I'm actually talking to Robin. And you can see Robin is up in the guest preview window up in the top left. And if I tell Robin to wave at me, Robin can probably wave at me. So there you see Robin. So now I'm talking to Robin as the control room. And also John is now hearing me because he's live on air. And John is also hearing me as the control room. So he's hearing me from the microphone here on the headset. So that's kind of how that works.
So you would use that, Vance. So let's say there was something wrong, somebody kept walking behind him or left a door open behind him. I guess you take him off air and say, can you fix whatever, or can you stop scratching your nose or whatever it is, and then you'd bring him back on air.
Exactly. So that's what we're in an off-air state, but we are still connected via Skype. But we're connected to the control. The control room is connected to Robin, and the on-air, where we're actually sending the audio and video live to air. So now, if I go back to John is still moving. See, he's bobbing his head, and if John speaks and moves his hand, then you'll hear John.
Yes, indeed.
So
I'm still here.
There's John. So I've still got Robin on. He's just not live on the air, and I'm able to talk to him on the headset, and John can obviously hear as well. So that's kind of how all of that goes. And like I said earlier, right now, Robin is seeing what my shot is, where I'm pointing in the right-hand side of the thumbnail, where I'm pointing to my A camera. Robin is seeing that image instead of from studio just above me, which is what John is seeing. So John is seeing what's going live on program, and Robin is seeing, if I say, hey, Robin, get this remote control and do something with it, then he can obviously do that, and he's not on there. So that's kind of how all of that works, Mark. So anything else I need to do before I close out on the interface or the demo, Mark?
No, I think you should bring you should bring Robin back onto air, just so that we can have him in post show. Because as you say, he's been sitting there doing a fantastic job. and it's good that we appreciate his time. In fact, Robin was in that conversation, hour and a half conversation on Sunday along with Joe DeMax, and it was a good time. So anyway, so my thanks again to John and to Robin for joining in on that demo. I want to cover a couple of quick things before we close up, and that is to remind you about our new website, which is ads.studiotech.tv, and this is where you can sell and buy your sort of spare used video gear. And we've had more things been listed in the last week, more things have been sold, and it is slowly starting to grow momentum. Lots of registrations in the last week, not too many things listed, but I think it is starting to get some traction. And I'm certainly getting quite a few inquiries about a couple of items that I have up there. So if you look under the table, up on the shelf, those little bits of video gear that you were saving for a rainy day, why don't you list them for sale on ads.studiotech.tv? It is a free service. We are not making any money out of this. It is for the Studio Tech community. We just wanted a way that we could get rid of things without having to either pay to advertise on some sites or pay big fees when you sell things. There is no fees involved. We just put people in touch, and you do any financial transactions between you. So in order to get an account, you have to use an invitation code, which is ADS, that's in capital letters, ADS 2014, and you can request an account, and then you can start posting things. You don't have to have an account to respond to any adverts, so check that out. And the other thing I wanted to remind people about, and Vance did mention this a little bit earlier when we were talking about that new Roku dongle, is our Roku channel. It is still in beta, and actually we're just not getting nothing but positive reports about it. So if you do a search, you won't find the channel, because you have to go to this particular web address, which is owner.roku.com/ad/StudioTech-beta2. And there it is, just down here, and you can type that in, and you can add it to your Roku channel, and you can watch us on your big screen TV. That actually has become my preferred way of watching Studio Tech now. Even I watch it afterwards and normally cringe and say we could have done this better or that better, but everybody else tells me that I am too critical of myself. Anyway, so a couple of things there, and obviously starting to get excited about NAB. We have ordered some new equipment for NAB, but we'll talk a little bit more about that nearer the time. Hopefully it'll allow us to do even more videos and faster run and gun stuff as we progress. Right, so time to say the farewells here in the studio. So Vance, thank you very much indeed for doing the demo. I know that you have spent a lot of time in the last week on this box. I mean, I've spent a few hours with you on it, but you've spent a lot more than that. But thank you for a great demo.
Certainly, and I've really enjoyed the box. I have to be honest about it. It's really something I think that a lot of businesses and individuals can use, Mark. So it's been a lot of fun. It's still fun, and we're going to continue to test it a little longer. And if anyone has any questions about it, please let us know, or let John know, and we'll get them addressed. But it's been great fun. So fingers were crossed, everything went well today. So a lot better than last week. So glad to bring that to everyone.
That's good. So thanks very much. So you can follow me on Twitter at TTL down there we are, at TTFN TV. Follow Vance at Vance Willis. And Peter, thank you very much indeed for being there and hanging with us this evening.
Thank you very much, Mark. Well, it was certainly a lot better than it was last week. Thank heavens for that. So yes, that was really interesting. A big thanks to John, and also to the questions from the chat room. And
to Robin for being our second
Skype
Skype dummy that's sitting there beautifully just blinking. It was perfect, absolutely perfect. Well done, Robin. A new career is beckoning for you, I think. And finally, if you're watching this on YouTube, that is fantastic. We don't mind people watching on YouTube, but you can also watch it on our website, which is studiotech.tv. Lots of information there, including links to the live site, to the ads.studiotech.tv, and do try watching us live. There are quite a few people. The chat room seems to get a little bit bigger every week, and it's a great place to ask questions and get answers. And you can find the website said by going to studiotech.tv. The live show is every Tuesday, 2 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. UK, 2000 CET, except next week when it's 3 p.m. CET, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And you go there, you find us on live.studiotech.tv. So that's it. We're only an hour and 21 minutes, so we exceeded last week's show by about an hour and 17 minutes, so that's got to be a little bit of an improvement. I hope it wasn't too much so. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.